Welcome to Books in 10. Remember, we're raffling an iPhone when we reach 10,000 subscribers. Like, subscribe, and journey with us into this fantastic book. Share with your friends, and let's create the biggest book community on YouTube together. Oh, there's a link to purchase the book in the pinned comments. Enjoy! We are accepting book requests to create content within. Suggest the best titles in the comments.
Now let's go. Ever feel like life is asking you some pretty big questions? Like, what matters? How should we live?
Yeah, those big questions, right?
Yeah. Well, Tolstoy, he wrestled with these too.
Oh, he did?
And that's why we're doing this deep dive into some of his short stories.
They might just hold some surprising answers.
Yeah.
You're right. These stories, they're deceptively simple, but they just pack a philosophical punch. And we're looking at 5 of them. They're pulled from his 1906 collection called What Men Live By and Other Tales.
Okay, so let's jump right in with that title story, What Men Live By.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Simon, a humble shoemaker, and he encounters this mysterious stranger.
Right.
This stranger isn't just lost, he's naked.
And that sets up this really interesting tension
Yeah.
between fear and compassion.
Absolutely. And it's a brilliant way, I think, for Tolstoy to highlight, the human condition, right? Simon is struggling to survive himself, but he's drawn to help this vulnerable person.
Yeah.
Makes you think about, those moments in our own lives when we're called to act even when it's inconvenient or risky.
Totally. And what strikes me too is that this seemingly small act of kindness ends up being this huge turning point. Not just for the stranger, who we later find out is an angel, but for Simon and his wife Matryona as well.
Right. Because, it's through this act of compassion that the angel actually starts to understand what it means to be human.
Right.
He's been sent by God to learn 3 specific things.
Okay.
What dwells in man, what is not given to man, and what men live by. And, it's through observing Simon and Matryona that he begins to grasp that first lesson.
So what dwells in man? What's that answer that Tolstoy reveals through the story?
It's love. And I don't, not the romantic kind necessarily,
Right.
but a deeper, more universal love. That compassion that connects us, that willingness to help others, even when we ourselves have very little.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how Tolstoy uses this simple act, act of taking in a stranger to illuminate this core aspect of humanity.
Yeah. And there's that beautiful image of light emanating from the angel each time he learns a lesson.
Yes.
Almost like a visual representation of this aha moment, the power of understanding.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such a powerful symbol, and it sets up this idea that true knowledge, isn't just intellectual, it's transformative. It changes us from the inside out.
Okay, so the angel's got lesson 1 down. Love dwells in man. How about lesson 2? What is not given to man?
Yeah.
And this is where I think that wealthy gentleman who orders the boots comes in. Right.
Exactly. And this gentleman is obsessed with planning for the future, with controlling every detail.
Right.
He demands these boots that'll last a year. But the irony, of course, is that he dies before he can even wear them.
It's almost like Tolstoy's poking fun at our human desire, to control everything.
Yeah.
Like obsessed with the future, thinking if we just plan enough, we can avoid, uncertainty or hardship.
Absolutely. And the angel, through observing this, learns that the knowledge of one's own needs is not given to man.
Yeah.
We can't predict the future. We can't control when we'll need certain things or even if we'll be around to use them.
Right.
It's a pretty sobering thought, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. And it makes you think about, what we truly have control over, which this story suggests is a lot less than we think. So we've got love dwelling within us. The knowledge of our own needs is hidden from us. What about that third lesson?
Yeah.
Like what men live by.
Right.
This is where the woman with the orphan twin girls comes in.
Yes. And this woman has experienced loss herself, yet she opens her heart to these children, demonstrating a selfless love that goes beyond blood ties. It's through witnessing this act of pure generosity that the angel finally understands what men truly live by.
So in the end, it all comes back to love. Even though the story starts with this act of kindness towards a stranger, it ends up revealing this much deeper truth about human existence. Love is what sustains us, connects us, gives our lives meaning.
It's a beautifully simple yet profound message. And I think, what's so compelling about Tolstoy is his ability to deliver these big philosophical insights through these seemingly everyday encounters.
Yep.
He's not preaching, he's showing, letting us draw our own conclusions.
It's masterful storytelling.
Yeah.
So the angel, He learns these three truths, but what happens to him after? Does he stick around?
Well, having learned these lessons, the angel is redeemed and he
Right.
returns to heaven, but not before sharing, this wisdom with Simon and Matriona, leaving them, forever changed by the encounter.
And I love how Tolstoy describes, the angel ascending in a column of fire. Such a striking image, right?
Yeah.
It's like this culmination of the story's themes.
Mm.
Love, transformation, the possibility of transcendence, even in the midst of ordinary life. Okay, so we've explored what men live by. We've discovered love is at the heart of it all. Ready to tackle Tolstoy's 3 questions.
Let's dive in. This story takes us on a different but equally, I think, thought-provoking journey, exploring these themes of time, purpose, the importance of the present moment.
Mhm.
We've got a king who's obsessed with finding the right answers to life's big questions, and his quest for knowledge leads him down a path full of unexpected twists and turns. Yeah, this king, he wants a cheat sheet for life, doesn't he? Like
Right.
sends out this proclamation,
Right.
offering a reward to anyone who can answer these 3 deceptively simple questions.
He wants to know the right time for every action.
Okay.
The most necessary people
Yes.
and the most important thing to do. Talk about ambitious, right?
Right.
I bet he had a lot of different opinions on that one.
Oh, absolutely. Tolstoy describes, this parade of scholars and advisors, each with their own complex theories. Some advocate for meticulous planning, others for spontaneity.
Right.
Some even suggest consulting magicians.
Wow.
It's almost satirical,
Yeah.
highlighting how we just crave these easy answers,
Right.
these formulas for success when life is so rarely straightforward.
It's like we want to, predict the future.
Yeah.
Eliminate all uncertainty. But as we saw in What Men Live By, that kind of knowledge, it's not given to us.
It's not.
So what does the king do when all these experts, fail to satisfy him?
He decides to seek out a hermit.
Oh, of course he does.
This hermit who's known for his wisdom, his simple living.
Tolstoy loves that, right?
Yeah, it's classic Tolstoyan move, right?
Yeah.
This contrast, between the opulence of the court
Yeah.
and the humble life of a hermit.
I love those contrasts.
Yeah.
So the king goes to this hermit expecting, I don't know, some grand revelation, some secret formula.
Yeah.
What does he find?
He finds the hermit quietly digging beds in his garden.
Of course he does.
And the king, all impatient.
Yeah.
He asks his questions repeatedly, but the hermit just keeps digging.
He doesn't offer any immediate answers, huh?
No.
I can picture that so vividly.
Yeah.
The king in his fine robes, all flustered and eager, and then the hermit, this embodiment of quiet wisdom.
Yes.
Just focus on this simple task. So what happens next? Does the king, I don't know, storm off in a huff?
Not quite. He's intrigued.
Okay.
Maybe even a little humbled by the hermit's quiet presence,
Yeah.
and so he offers to help with the digging.
He gets his hands dirty. I wouldn't expect that from a king.
Right.
I feel like Tolstoy is setting up a pretty powerful lesson here,
Yeah.
about the nature of wisdom.
Absolutely. And it's while they're working side by side that things start to shift. A wounded man appears, desperate for help.
Okay.
And the king and the hermit, they tend to give his wounds.
They save his life.
They do.
Wow. And this wounded man, this turns out to be the king's sworn enemy.
Right. Classic Tolstoy.
It's like he's saying, you want to know the most important thing to do? Here's an opportunity. Act with compassion right now, in this moment.
You're spot on. The king, in seeking the right time and people, he stumbles upon this profoundly important moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the most necessary person turns out to be the one he least expected.
Right.
It's a powerful example of how life unfolds, not according to our grand plans, but through these, seemingly random encounters.
Yeah, so the king, in this very practical hands-on experience, starts to understand, that maybe wisdom isn't about having all the answers in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's about being present, being open to what each moment brings.
Yeah.
But does the hermit ever actually answer those 3 questions directly?
He does.
He does. Okay.
As the sun rises, the king, now exhausted, but perhaps, a little wiser, he goes to find the hermit, who's once again tending his garden.
Yeah.
The king asks his questions one last time.
Okay.
And this time the hermit offers a response.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right.
What does he say?
The hermit's answer is as simple as it is profound. He says, "The most important time is now. The most necessary man is he with whom you are. And the most important affair is to do him good."
Wow. It's like all those, complex theories and pronouncements from the advisors were completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
The wisdom was right there in front of them the whole time,
Yeah.
hidden in the simplicity of the present moment.
Exactly. And the hermit then explains how, each encounter from the previous day was a perfect answer to the king's question.
Okay.
If he hadn't been digging in the garden, he might have been killed by his enemy.
Oh, well, yeah.
If he hadn't helped the wounded man, he would miss this chance for reconciliation. It's like Tolstoy is saying that life itself is the answer, and we just need to be present enough to see it.
Three questions really emphasizes the importance of the present moment, the potential for meaning, and even, the most unexpected encounters. And it seems to, challenge this very human desire, to want to control everything, have all the answers in advance. What I find interesting, is how this idea connects to Tolstoy's broader critique of societal structures.
Yeah.
Like his rejection of materialism, his emphasis on simple living.
That's such a great point. It's like, these stories are urging us to just step back from the busyness of life, the pursuit of status and possessions, and really see, the value in those simple human interactions.
Exactly. And speaking of different perspectives and ways of seeing the world, let's move on to the coffee house of Surat.
All right.
This story takes us to this bustling coffee house, where people from all different faiths are gathered, each claiming their belief is the only true path to God.
It's like a microcosm of religious conflict, all contained within the walls of this coffee house.
Right.
You've got a Persian theologian, a Brahmin, a Jewish broker, an Italian missionary, a Protestant minister, and even a Turkish customs official, all adding their voices to the cacophony.
Sounds intense. I bet things get pretty heated, right, with all
Yeah.
those strong opinions flying around. So how does Tolstoy handle this, potentially sensitive topic?
He does it masterfully with this blend of humor and wisdom.
Okay.
In the midst of this debate, there's this Chinese man, a student of Confucius, who's just quietly observing the scene. And when asked for his opinion, he tells this fascinating parable
Okay.
about a blind man who denies the existence of the sun.
A blind man who denies the existence of the sun. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this parable.
So this blind man, obsessed with understanding the nature of the sun, he actually ends up damaging his sight even further. He then concludes that since he can no longer see the sun, it must not exist. His slave, however, points out, the practical reality of light
Right.
by creating, the simple night light from a coconut shell.
It seems like a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
For the way we get so caught up in our own limited perspectives
Right.
that we miss the bigger picture.
Yeah.
We cling to our beliefs, our ways of seeing the world, even when they might be incomplete or even harmful.
Exactly. And, in the parable, other characters offer their own interpretations of the sun,
Okay.
each based on their limited experience.
Yeah.
There's the lame man who thinks it's a ball of fire that sets behind the mountains. The fisherman who knows it sets in the sea.
Right.
And the Indian who believes it's a deity circling a sacred mountain.
Wow.
Everyone's holding on to a piece of the truth,
Yeah.
but no one has the complete picture.
It reminds me of the king and his three questions.
Yeah.
So focused on finding the right answers that he missed the wisdom that was right there in front of him.
Yeah.
It seems like Tolstoy is exploring this similar theme, right? The limitations of human understanding and the importance of humility
Right.
in the face of the unknown.
Yeah.
So, we've got this coffee house, we've got these debaters.
Mm-hmm.
Who helps these debaters, see beyond their limited perspectives?
Mhm.
Who sheds light on the bigger picture, so to speak?
It's the ship's pilot.
Okay.
This man who has traveled the world and studied the stars.
Okay.
He explains that the Earth revolves around the sun and that the sun shines not just for one land, but for all.
Yeah.
It's like this aha moment where they realize that their understanding of the sun, like their understanding of God, has been too small.
Yeah.
Too confined by their individual perspectives.
It seems like Tolstoy is suggesting that truth, whether it's scientific or spiritual, has this expansive, unifying quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not meant to be divided or claimed by any one group.
Exactly. And the Chinese man, he then applies this lesson to the debate about religion.
Okay.
He suggests that just as the sun shines for all, God's truth is not confined to any one faith or nation.
Yeah.
He urges the listeners to see, the divine light in all creation, in each other, even when beliefs differ.
It's such a timely message,
Yeah.
especially in a world that can often feel so divided by, religious and ideological differences.
Yeah.
Like Tolstoy is urging us towards a more expansive, compassionate way of seeing the world and each other.
Exactly. He's reminding us that, there's more that unites us than divides us, and that recognizing, this shared humanity, that might be the key to overcoming conflict and building a more peaceful world.
Okay, so we've explored the transformative power of love, the importance of the present moment, and the limitations of our individual perspectives. Now brace yourself, because we're about to dive into a story that takes us deep into the heart of human greed and ambition.
Oh.
How much land does a man need?
That's right.
This is a cautionary tale that explores, the insatiable nature of desire and the ways in which our pursuit of more can lead us down a dangerous path.
That's it.
I'm already hooked. The title itself is so provocative. It's like Tolstoy is asking us to examine our own relationship with material possessions, with this idea of enough.
Yeah. And the story starts with this seemingly harmless conversation between two sisters.
Okay.
One boasts about the comforts of city life,
Okay.
while the other praises the simplicity of rural life.
It's a familiar debate, isn't it?
Right.
City versus the country, each with its own allure and drawbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah. The classic city versus country debate. We're still grappling with those same tensions today. But it's the peasant husband, Pahom, who gets really caught up in this comparison, right?
Right. And he overhears his wife saying that if they just had enough land, they wouldn't fear the devil himself.
Uh-oh. I have a feeling that's going to come back to haunt him. We know Tolstoy loves to explore,
Yeah.
The darker sides of human nature, and mention the devil never bodes well.
You've got a good instinct for foreshadowing. The devil overhearing Pahom's boast, he decides to tempt him.
Okay.
And so begins Pahom's downward spiral, driven by this growing desire for more and more land.
I bet this is where Tolstoy's critique of materialism, really comes into play. It seems like he's using Pahom's story to show how easily we can get seduced by this idea of more, right?
Yeah.
This belief that, accumulating wealth and possessions will bring us, happiness and security.
Absolutely. And it's not that Pahom is inherently greedy,
Right.
He starts out content with his small plot.
Okay.
But then, he faces these conflicts with his neighbors, and it fuels this desire for more, thinking that, more land will equal more freedom,
Right.
more control.
It's like he gets caught in this vicious cycle, The more he gets, the more he wants. And the less satisfied he feels. It's a pattern, right, that we see all too often, right? Whether it's land, money, possessions, we convince ourselves that just a little bit more, will finally make us happy. But does Pahom ever, question this desire, this relentless pursuit of more?
He does, actually. He even has a dream where he sees himself lying dead, surrounded by all the land he's acquired.
Oh, wow.
It's like Tolstoy is giving us this glimpse into Pahom's subconscious,
Yeah.
warning him about the dangers of his ambition.
But I bet, like so many of us, he ignores the warning signs.
Yeah.
He keeps pushing forward.
He does, he starts buying land, selling his possessions, even uprooting his family to this new village.
Yeah.
Where land is more readily available.
Right.
But as you might guess, that feeling of contentment, it's fleeting.
Yeah.
He soon finds himself yearning for even more land, and that's when he hears about the Bashkirs.
The Bashkirs. Who are they?
They're this nomadic people,
Okay.
and they offer Pahom this deal that seems almost too good to be true.
Okay.
He can have all the land he can walk around in a day for a fixed price.
That sounds like a dream come true. But knowing Tolstoy, there's got to be a catch.
There is.
What is it?
The catch is that Pahom has to return to his starting point before sunset.
Oh.
If he doesn't make it back in time, he loses everything.
Wow.
It becomes this race against time, fueled by, greed and ambition.
I can already sense that tension, building. It's like we know, he's headed for a fall, but we can't look away.
It's a classic Tolstoyan move, creating this sense of anticipation, of dread. We see Pahom's obsession taking over, blinding him to, the risks, the consequences of his actions. But we'll have to save the dramatic conclusion of Pahom's journey for part 3. Until then, let's take a moment, to reflect on the themes we've explored so far. What connections are you seeing between, how much land does a man need and the other stories we've discussed?
It seems like Tolstoy's, he's showing us, time and again, the ways in which our desires can lead us astray.
Yeah.
Whether it's, the king's search for the right answers, the coffeehouse patrons clinging to their limited beliefs, or Pahom's insatiable greed for land.
Yeah.
There's this common thread, of losing sight of what truly matters.
You've hit on a key insight. It's like Tolstoy is urging us to question, our assumptions about success and happiness.
Yeah.
He's reminding us that true fulfillment might not come from acquiring more, but from appreciating what we already have, from cultivating those those human connections that bring meaning to our lives.
So we left Pahom, in a pretty precarious situation.
Yeah.
He's literally racing against the sun,
Yeah.
driven by this insatiable desire for land.
Right.
You mentioned earlier that he had a dream,
Yeah.
foreshadowing his demise. Do you think he realizes, the danger he's in?
Tolstoy, he gives us these subtle clues throughout the story that Pahom is at least subconsciously aware of the risks.
Mhm.
He keeps pushing himself further and further.
Yeah.
His body's screaming for rest, but his mind is just consumed by this vision of all the land he's going to acquire.
Right.
It's like he's blinded by his own ambition.
It reminds me of The King in Three Questions, right?
Yeah.
So focused on finding those ultimate answers
Yeah.
that he almost misses the opportunity to act with compassion
Right.
right in front of him. Seems like Tolstoy is showing us, time and again how our desires, if we let them, they can just distort our perception of reality.
That's a great observation. And in Pahom's case, that distorted perception has some very real consequences.
Yeah.
As the sun dips lower in the sky, he sees the Bashkir chief in the distance, laughing just like in his dream.
Yeah.
And it's this moment of horrifying clarity,
Yes. Yeah.
where he realizes he's traded his life for this pursuit of land.
It's tragic, isn't it? He finally sees the futility of his greed,
Mm-hmm.
but it's too late.
It is.
He's pushed himself beyond his limits,
Yeah.
and there's no turning back.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes we don't truly grasp the cost of our desires until we've already paid the price.
Yeah.
Pahom, he collapses just as he reaches the goal.
Oh, wow.
His heart giving out from the strain. And the chief, he watches all of this unfold and he just remarks, he's like, he has gained much land.
That line is so chilling, right?
Yes.
It's like Tolstoy's highlighting the absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
All that land. And all Pahom needs now is, a 6-foot grave.
Tolstoy doesn't shy away from that harsh reality.
Right.
He lets the story unfold with this brutal simplicity,
Yeah.
showing us the ultimate futility of Pahom's ambition.
Yeah.
And his servant digs the grave, measuring out the exact amount of land that his master truly needs. It's a sobering end to a story, I think, that challenges us to examine, our own definitions of success and the true cost of our desires.
Okay, so we've explored stories that delve into the nature of love, the importance of the present moment, the limitations of our perceptions, and the dangers of, unchecked ambition. But we have one more story to go.
You do?
And it seems like a bit of a departure. Tell me about the story of Ivan the Fool.
Yeah. This one, it's more of a fable.
Okay.
With a lighter tone. It follows, Ivan. He's this simple-minded peasant who lives with his 2 brothers and their wives, and they're constantly mocking him,
Oh, wow.
calling him lazy and useless.
Okay.
But Ivan, he possesses a different kind of wisdom.
Ivan the Fool. I bet he's not as foolish as he seems.
Yeah.
Tolstoy often subverts our expectations, revealing, wisdom in unexpected places.
Yeah, exactly. Ivan's foolishness is really a kind of purity. Yeah.
A lack of worldly ambition.
Okay.
While his brothers strive for wealth and status, Ivan is content with simple living, working in harmony with nature, helping those in need. He even befriends some little devils.
Little devils.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is getting interesting. What are these devils supposed to represent?
Well, they embody those who are often marginalized,
Yeah.
feared.
Okay.
They symbolize the unconventional, the misunderstood.
Okay.
And through these unlikely friendships, Ivan learns valuable lessons about the dangers of greed, of pride, of violence.
Yeah.
He discovers that true wealth lies in compassion, generosity, and living in accordance with with nature's
It
rhythms.
seems like Tolstoy's,
Yeah.
using this fable to challenge, societal norms,
Yeah.
to suggest that maybe true happiness isn't found in, chasing after power and possessions,
Right.
but maybe it's in embracing, a simpler way of life, one that values, I don't know, kindness and connection over material gain. And, you remember those three questions from the king.
Yeah.
The story of Ivan the Fool, it offers a different kind of answer.
Okay.
One that emphasizes, the power of living in the present moment, acting with compassion, and recognizing the inherent worth of all beings, even those we might consider different or less than.
So, looking back at all 5 of these stories, what's the overall message? What's Tolstoy trying to convey?
Yeah.
What are those key takeaways we should be thinking about,
Yeah.
as we go about our own lives?
I think, Tolstoy, he's urging us to look beyond the surface of things,
Yeah.
to question our assumptions about success and happiness.
Yeah.
He's showing us that true fulfillment comes not from what we accumulate, but from how we live, how we love.
Yeah.
He's inviting us to, embrace simplicity, to cultivate compassion, and to find joy in the present moment.
It's a message that resonates so deeply,
Mm.
especially in a world that often feels so obsessed with more,
Yeah.
more possessions, more achievements, more distractions. Tolstoy reminds us that maybe what we truly need is less.
Less stuff, less striving, less judgment,
Yeah.
more presence, more kindness, more connection.
That's something worth pondering, isn't it? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the wisdom of Tolstoy. Until next time.